Be an exciting hour together. Oh my gosh, good morning, good afternoon, Ryan.
Hi, how you doing today?
Oh, I love it. I love seeing. Okay, Ryan said he'd be on the camera with me, you guys. I want to introduce you to Ryan. We talk about Purpose Fridays. We're going to bring in friends, family, and boy, Ryan, you're in all those categories. So, welcome. And we are going to today take some time to just, gosh, it's a whirlwind right now. Just since the last time we've talked, when the guys, since we didn't meet last Friday, we had so much going on that we're going to update you on some of the things that are going on. Ryan and Derek are leading a mastermind and inner circle group on charitable giving of real estate. They've got a lot to bring into today from the meetings this week and some of the results that are happening. I'm going to be turning off the camera in a little bit and getting in the car and doing what we teach. You guys walking the walk. And so last night on Nonprofit University, and if you guys aren't involved, you need to get involved in Nonprofit University. Um, we have a curriculum. We have Course 101, establishing your nonprofit. 110, really building your marketing, your program summary, really building that. 120, now let's go out and connect, making things happen. 130, project development. Now we're in the curriculum of 140. So Derek, Ryan, and Ed and I last night went through diversified funding, bringing funding into nonprofit. We focus on government grants, foundations, charitable giving of real estate. And last night we talked about corporate cause marketing, and that corporate America has truly come forward with knowing that the bottom line has never looked better for them when they align with the cause. And so we've gone to philanthropy conferences, Fortune 100 and 500 companies. We've worked with many of them, and they've showed the economic impact to their business it's made aligning with the cause. So today, Derek and Ed and I are going to be meeting with a group up aligning with your purpose.
Sure.
So, Ryan, it's been such an incredible journey with you and our nonprofits, being a part of the ribbon cuttings where you help people I was serving get into their first homes and handing out keys to single moms, veterans. That's been one of my most powerful times, the impact, you guys, that every one of you can make. Ryan was young and out of college, and just there were no limits. He had no ego. He had let go of fear. He had no box. And because of my journey of having everything taken away from me, having to learn how to swallow, walk, talk, I was able to just come back full of purpose and know what my purpose in life was, and passionate about being that warrior in the army of compassion for all the folks that didn't have voices. So Ryan, I just want to say it's just so great to be in the next chapter of our life together, now taking our knowledge, our skills, our expertise out to all the folks that are stepping up saying it's time.
Yeah, I think I love that word purpose. I think that everybody that's listening in today, me, you, Derek, Ed, it's a profound word, and I think to get to this point, that purpose has been knocking on our door, it's been knocking on everybody's door, and to realize what that purpose is. And one of the things that we've really been focusing in on over the last few weeks with some of our clients is not just having a purpose, but living on purpose, and taking all of those dreams, all of those that thing that lights that fire in your gut, and really applying it to the world. And I think people come in and get really excited when we first meet folks, and they join us on these Purpose Friday webinars, or they see us in a different area. And what's really been cool over the last few weeks is to really take that purpose and to create to apply some really powerful tools to actually live on purpose, and take all of those thoughts that are going on in your head about this vision that you have of helping people and doing some cool stuff, and really living on purpose. And like you're doing today, going up and connecting with a group up in Irvine. And so it's been a lot of fun to see light bulbs just exploding, working with folks that really have that purpose, and now they're implementing it, and they're living on purpose, and they're being very intentional with what they're doing. And you pointed to something earlier, about when I started the housing program 10 years ago. It was very, you're right, I was very green. I'd never built a house before. I didn't really know what the heck I was doing, to be quite honest with you. But someone once told me that it doesn't matter if you can actually bench press 400 pounds as long as you look like you can. And so I took that, and I was very, I had 6 months. I told my wife that I have 6 months to do this, because we took a big leap of faith to start the program. It was going to be a really, I turned down 3 other opportunities to really do this, but I knew it was where I was being pulled, as where I was being called, as where I was being led to help these families in our community. And so with that being said, and I know a lot of people on this webinar today can relate, I had 6 months, it was do or die. And so I had to be very, very, very intentional, and I had to be very diligent and disciplined, because in 6 months I knew it was either I was going to be a success, or I was going to go sell insurance. And so it worked out in my favor and the community's favor. The rest is history. But it's one thing. The one thing that was on my heart today to talk about was not just having a purpose. There's a lot of people that are buried in the ground that had a purpose. It's worthless unless you live on purpose. And so, just to really encourage, it was really an encouragement for me over the last few weeks, specifically with some of the mentoring folks that I'm working with, to see the light bulbs going off. Once they were able to pull all of that vision, put it into a really concrete plan and go out and start implementing it very intentionally, very efficiently and effectively, and really focusing on their business, really diving down into the nitty-gritty details of building their programs, understanding what the business model is for every program. Not looking at this as a bake sale charity, but really taking our coaching and applying it, and to get the emails and the phone calls of people saying, "Oh my gosh, you are never going to believe what happened. We meeting today, and these guys want to give me money. What do I do now, Ryan?" And so it's been really powerful, because let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that they have these dreams, they have these this calling to do some cool stuff, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what next steps to take next. I didn't. I was in that same position 10 years ago, and it was because of really solid people kind of came behind me and really supported me. They were, we learned some key words this week. I taught some key words this week to some of the mentoring students, but that we talked to this week, about champions, about finding those champions for your nonprofit, finding the champions, and not just for your nonprofit, but for you. Because let's face it, people are funding you. People see your passion. People saw Sherry's passion. People knew that there was, I'll tell you, I mean, she walked into the room, and you knew that there was nobody more passionate about the disability movement than her. And the same thing with housing. People knew, even though I was a punk 23-year-old kid, when I walked into a boardroom with city council members or whoever, they knew that there was no one more passionate about putting people in homes than me. So with that being said, it's been a really exciting couple of weeks, and just I love to encourage you to not only have purpose, but to live on purpose and do things that are very intentional, step by step, and don't go to your grave, with a great purpose. Go out and do it.
I love it. And you guys, share with your friends. Purpose Fridays, we're going to get back next week. It'll be at this time it was in the beginning. We have several guests. We've lined up a whole calendar. We're bringing in one of my mentors, my biggest mentor, is coming in on the call, and really is so deep. Spiritually has built spiritual wealth, lots of financial wealth, but because he's built the financial wealth because his spiritual wealth is so strong, and he's now on our board of directors. So we're going to bring him in. We're bringing some NFL football players in that I'm not going to tell you their name yet, that have set up foundations that want to come in and be part of it. We have a marketing group with Jumbotron that's going to be highlighting one of our nonprofits at every single event, the Super Bowl, the events that corporate America pays $80,000 to $150,000 for. Our nonprofit's going to be highlighted with an ambassador going through the audience on the Jumbotron, talking about their nonprofit and what is their purpose. And so there's a lot going on. So these Purpose Fridays are going to be an opportunity. Tell your friends, spread the word. We'll start doing them every Friday at 1. Last Friday we had to not do one because we were out making all this happen. Today we moved it up an hour so we could all go to our meeting. But we're bringing in some great folks, and we want them to be able to share with you the tools, the resources, our mentors that have helped guide Ryan and I to where we are now. Some of my past board members, some of our legislators. We just did a summit in Albuquerque with one of our mentoring students, and one of my dear friends who became a friend because I worked with her. She was the secretary for the Agency on Aging. And secretary, we would tell them, right, it's not some of the answers from, it's a cabinet level position that is appointed and confirmed by the Senate and the legislature. And she helped bring funding to me. We set up an elder care center. We built a home modification program so that folks could move out of nursing homes, and we could widen doorways and put ramps in and build that accessible bathroom. And so she, for 10 years, was my champion. It got to the point to where she would say, okay, we've got federal funds in, can you help do this? Well, now she's a state legislator. And so to have her come to our summit as a state legislator and to help direct and guide and lead us to where the funding was, where the need was, what agencies we could work with. Oh yeah, I'll go with you. I'll open the door for the secretary and I'll go to the meeting with you. The state legislators are like their bosses. They approve the budgets, they approve the state agency budget, so they're really their bosses. So your champions that Ryan was talking about, the state legislators, I'm going to be bringing her onto the call. Another colleague who was, again, another state agency director and was one of my champions, again, through the Department of Health. She is now a congresswoman, and so she's in Washington, D.C., serving us at the federal level. So I'm going to bring her in on the call. So I've got commitments, all these folks that will just start mentoring us step by step as to how to connect at the local level, how to connect at the state level, how to connect with congressperson. And then we're going to bring some of our students on. This focus group that I'm about to let Ryan and Derek take over on the conversation really was powerful for me, you guys, Tuesday night. And I'm going to lead into this, Ryan and Derek, and let you take over. But it really hit me emotionally in a very strong place. I think for me, 30-some years ago, as I lay there in a coma, and as I really looked for what my purpose was, why did this happen? I had 2 baby boys living in the American dream, really living on purpose. Why? And it wasn't until my pastor, my mentor, sat beside me and said, girl, instead of ask why, it's time to ask what. What's my purpose? I defied the odds, and medically they can't explain why I'm alive. What is my purpose? So that purpose allowed me to move forward, to really help build a movement. And as I sat there on the webinar Tuesday night, and Derek watching what you were doing with putting a yellow notepad on the screen and taking notes and putting action items and what everyone was doing to perfect our mailings. We have software called the Power Free Real Estate. Amazing. Derek and his team worked on it for a year, built this software that finds donors. It's amazing. So now we have 10 of our mentoring students that have come together. Every week we'll be meeting and doing mailings, 250 mailings at a time. What's working? Handwritten, labels. Do we handwrite the letter? What kind of results? What are we saying when we get folks on the phone? Powerful group. But as I sat there, Derek, and watched you leading that, I was flooded with emotions of how we built our movement. 25 years ago, last Sunday, President Bush with 3,500 people sitting on the White House lawn, he signed the Americans with Disabilities Act into law. 25 years ago, we had no curb cuts, we had no short buses, we had no lifts on buses, we couldn't go on airplanes, we had no ramps. Think about it. The stoplights that have the blinking signals that people that are blind can go through, elevators that make noises at each floor so people that are blind know what floor to get off. None of that was there. We didn't even have metal schools, metal buildings. We were out of sight, out of mind. If you look at what we did, look how the world has changed because we lived our purpose and we were passionate about going and meeting with city council. We were passionate about freeing our people. No, that was a lot of what we said was free our people. We want to live the American dream. We did all of that without internet, without email, without cell phones. Okay, I'm dating my age. But is that amazing? So as I sat there Tuesday night, you guys, and watching this group that's so committed and living on purpose and determined that they're going to make a difference and an impact, and the technology now that we have, it ignited something in me to say, for 25 years, and you can imagine, Ryan and Dirk, the last month, there's been so much celebrating. There's been going down memory lane, colleagues I haven't talked to in 2 years, 5 years. We all united again. We shared stories. Oh, remember 20 years ago when we were all in Washington, D.C. and holding up the HUD office because we couldn't get, they didn't have anything for us. So out of that came Section 8 vouchers. And we blocked out 4 streets. There were thousands of us. We were so organized. We were carrying signs. The police were with us. We did a parade permit. They were with us. It started raining. The police came and started bringing us rain jackets. The police were part of, people got our message. They understood it. And as we sat and blocked off streets, and all we wanted was a letter from the GAO, Government Accounting Office, saying that it would not cost more to let us live in the community. That's all we'd been asking for. We'd ask for a meeting, we'd ask everything, and then to get vouchers so that we could now live in the community. And so all those memories of sharing what we did and the groundswell, as we stood there on the street and it was 5 o'clock and people couldn't get out of the parking garages and you'd think they'd be upset, we were handing out flyers saying this is what it's about. We now are getting the GAO to say we can live in the community with support and it's a lot more cost effective. And HUD can create vouchers that we could live there. And people started lining up with us. Like my mom was just put in a nursing home. I get it. My dad, I don't. So the groundswell, this group right now, you guys are part of this group that's really leading to our mission of launching and empowering at least 10,000 nonprofits. What we're going to do in this world is like what no one's ever seen. The opportunities that our kids and grandkids will have, the world they're going to live in. So the doom and gloom on the news and folks that talk about where our country's going, we're the ones that can lead in that change. So I'm going to turn off the camera. I'm going to go get in the car and I'll stay on the phone. But Ryan, gratitude for what you're leading, gratitude for what I saw Tuesday night that reignited that spark of, wow, there are no limits to what we can do. So I'm turn it over to you. You guys, this is the best happy hour I've ever been at, so we're going to keep these going. So Derek and Ryan, thank you, and I'll get on the phone and I'll be right back with you in a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Derek, if you want to talk a little bit about the Charitable Giving of Real Estate Mastermind, and then I would really love to get into some questions.
Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, just give everybody a little bit of overview on that. We sent out an application to our top students, some of whom are with us right now on this Purpose Friday, about pushing the charitable giving of real estate and real estate donations with nonprofits to another level through a more collaborative, strategic path through an inner circle mastermind. And so we selected our top students, and we are working all things real estate, meeting weekly, using same thing, screen share, based on all types of mass mailings, marketing, different types of strategies involved with that, as well as offline strategies with connecting with people to take this to a whole different level. Because we talked about purpose, that is a big purpose of mine, is to fundamentally change how nonprofits raise funds using real estate and real estate donations. And we just launched that in conjunction with our software program and some of our top students around the country. So very, very exciting. Kind of gives you a little bit of an inside peek at what we're up to, what we're doing.
Yeah, it's been a really cool information sharing time, for people who are looking at and implementing diversified funding in their organizations. Real estate is one of the it's my absolute favorite way to generate revenue for a charity. It was one of the number one ways that I generated revenues for our organization, and so it's been really exciting to be able to get a group together that shares, and it's really cool because the folks that we have involved in this inner circle or mastermind group, they're all action takers. They don't sit around and talk about doing things. They go out and do them and figure out what's working and not working, and then to bring everyone together to share that knowledge has just been profound. Some things are working, some things are not, and that's and when it comes to reaching out to donors, whether you're asking for cash or a house, it's the same thing. Or a portion of the equity in a house, and so I've been really excited to see how excited the folks that we're working with are, and the information that's being shared is priceless.
Yeah, and to give you a little backstory, this has been a vision of Ryan and I's for years now. And with the unveiling of the software last year, and then now this giant step with this inner circle, it's kind of starting to all culminate and become a reality and what we always envisioned. Because again, like Ryan said, with real estate, whether it's cash, in-kind contribution, or a piece of real estate, it's essentially the same. There's just There's just a lack of knowledge, really, on real estate, where we have $456 billion in charitable giving in 2014, and only about 2% of that accounts from real estate, even though that real estate comprises nearly half of our capital wealth in this country. And on top of that, 90% of real estate donations annually, about that number, are rejected by nonprofits. So this has been something we've envisioned for quite some time, and very, very exciting times for us to make all this happen. Okay,
Yes,
Rob.
sir.
Yeah, it's really exciting time. We have a few of them on with us, so very, very exciting. First one on Tuesday, and then every Tuesday from here on out, and sharing great information, real true mastermind, virtually, and sharing strategies, data, metrics, the whole bit. So very, very exciting times.
Awesome. Well, what do you say we open it up to some questions? This is my favorite time to allow you guys to just ask away, fire away in your question section there on your menu tab there. Why don't you go ahead and fire off some questions for us? We'd love to connect. And the cool thing is, if you have a question, typically there's someone else in the room that may have the same question. So let's go ahead and fire away.
Yeah, let's open that up. Once again, right there in your control panel, you'll see where you can submit questions, a little drop bar, punch that in, type it in, and send it over. Let's get to some questions. So, any and all things nonprofit, whether what phase you are in, early stages, not even set up yet, or to fully advanced, let's open it up and get those answered for you. Here's one, Ron. You mentioned your affordable housing background. In that sense, in the Four Corners area of New Mexico, just want to briefly, just kind of a overview, just talk about some of those programs you had involved around housing.
Sure. Our focus really was around affordable home ownership, and of course, when you're talking about affordable housing, there's a spectrum that every community must have in order to have adequate affordable housing for everybody in the community. And affordable housing simply means that people aren't spending more than 30% of their gross monthly income on their housing expense. Okay, and so when we started the program, it was about 10 years ago. The housing market was going absolutely stupid, and people were not people were having a tough time getting into a new home, and so people that were making really decent money, $10 to $20 an hour, really the backbone of the community, they had to live in really. They either lived in substandard housing, or they moved into, or they paid way too much for their homes or their rents. And so we did. Our first program was what I called Habitat for Humanity on steroids. We did six to 8 homes at a time. The families got to participate in the construction of all 6 or 8 homes. They built an entire neighborhood, and then at the end of that 6-month period, they got one of the homes, and they walked in with $60,000 to $80,000 in equity, and they had about a $400 to $500 a month house payment for a brand new home. So it was really fun, profound. Handing over, as Sherry said, handing over the first set of keys changed my life, and I knew I would never want to do anything else besides help people, either help people get into homes, or help people start nonprofits that are helping people, get into homes. And we've helped so many along the way with veterans housing programs and homeless housing programs, and housing for people just getting out of jail, etc. We had a really large home buyer education program. And I would say that anybody that's ever been involved in housing, on this conference line knows that your program is nothing without a solid pipeline of qualified, educated families. And so, we put a lot of focus on really building a solid, stable pipeline of families. And and to be honest, 5 years later, 5 years after we started the program, we were still serving people that applied in the first year, because it took them that long to get their credit in shape. But they hung in there, and we got them into houses. So that's just kind of an overview of what we did. Ours was all in first-time homeowners, first-time home buyers program. That was our program. We did a lot of our business model wasn't dependent on grants. We appreciated grants, but we were able to make So we generate some revenues from the construction of the homes, generate some revenues from the sale of lots and the subdivisions that we created. And so when we talk about sustainable business models around your programs, that's what we're referring to, is being able to look at it as a business. Not all programs are going to be that way, but that gives you kind of an overview of our housing programs.
Yeah, and to that point, Ryan, a lot of you have a number of different programs, areas of focus you're looking at. Housing, Ryan will, really embodies this. Housing ties into a lot of needs. We're talking about affordable housing, seniors, universal design, housing for people with disabilities, affordable housing. So housing ties into a lot of programs. So whether you have all types of different programs out there or nonprofit focused on this specific need, this need, incorporating housing in a nonprofit is it's always just as a basic need. It's a very powerful strategy.
It really is the backbone. When you think about all of a community's economic development or human, the social welfare of a community, stable housing, is really the backbone. When people, large corporations come to a community, they want to know that this community has adequate, affordable housing. When people get out of prison or they're transitioning into sobriety, there needs to be a good, solid inventory of affordable housing options for those people. And you guys, it's not the government's job. It's not the for-profit sector. It's not their job. It's our job, right? It's our job to go out, the people that have been chosen to fulfill a purpose, to help other people. It's our job to go out and provide the services, to provide the housing, to provide those things for the community. And when you approach it that way, as a solutions-based provider, where you're not entitled and you just go out and you just make it happen, I'm telling you, you're going to be received, and people are going to be pulling you in. The city governments, the state governments, they love to work with nonprofit organizations that are business-minded and they're solutions-oriented. They're not coming with their hand out looking for money. They're coming to the table with solid community solutions. And just remember that the nonprofit's role is every bit as vital to the economic stability of a community than a for-profit's role. So just keep those things in mind, because I've seen a lot of nonprofits fail miserably because they had a nonprofit mindset, and that they felt like they were, a little pebble in a big sea of a community. And in reality, we have a big responsibility inside the communities as nonprofits to really go out and make those things function, and really take that burden on yourself. Don't rely on other people. If you see gaps, just go jump in there, make it happen, because that's the only way it will happen, is if somebody that really cares steps up.
Excellent, Ryan. Ryan, I'll field this one to you as well, since we have you on this Friday.
Okay.
I got a next question from one of our new mentoring students, Uma from Hawaii. Hi, Uma.
Hi, Uma.
Uma asks, can the executive director also be on the board of directors of the nonprofit corporation?
Ask the question again.
Uma asks if the executive director also can be on the board of directors of the nonprofit corporation.
No.
Yeah, we talked about that initially, like in setup when you're incorporating, just as registering 3 directors. In many states, it's required to register for incorporation, and then stepping stepping away from that and finding a replacement. But yeah,
It's two very specific roles, and
exactly.
and I want, semantically, I want to make sure everybody's very clear because words are very important, okay? And so, and Uma, thank you so much for that question because in the phase of development that most people on this call are in, you're in the same phase of development, okay? And so there's a very important question that I want to pose to everybody on the call today. If you're a founder of a nonprofit, if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, and if you already have a nonprofit, okay, I want you to think about what you want your role to be. Ask yourself, what's my role as the founder? What is my role? Okay, because it's vital because sometimes I've seen people go down the pathway and they're in a completely different role than they should be and they intended to be. Okay, and so it's very important that you understand that a nonprofit organization, the hierarchy, okay, starts with your board of directors. Okay, on top is your board of directors. Okay, below that is your CEO or executive director. Okay, and then everybody else reports to the executive director. Okay, but it's very, very vital and important to understand that when you're founding your nonprofit, like Derek said, it's okay for you and a few others to be on that founding board of directors. Okay, but your title and your role is not executive director at that point. Your role is a founder. Okay, and then that's in your foundation stage where you're really typically that's 6 to 12 months. Okay, then when you go into operation stage, then you excuse yourself or you step down off the board, and then you become you apply to become the executive director. Okay, so it's very important that you understand your role and you understand where you fit in because that can be very confusing if you're leading this ship. It could be very confusing to your board of directors if you don't have a clear understanding of what your role is as the founder of this organization. So very good question, Uma. Thank you for bringing that up. And I would really to everybody on the call. Looks like there's 32,000 people on the call. If you would ask yourself this question and really meditate on what your role is. What do you want your role to be? Do you want to start this thing and turn it over to somebody else? Do you want to be the CEO? Do you want to just be the president of the board of directors? So really think through that. And the other thing, this is the hardest question that you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself. Okay? Am I capable of being the CEO of this company? Okay? We all know, and that's a hard question, and that's as direct and as blunt as I can get, okay? Am I capable of being the CEO of this corporation? Would I be a better fit in some other role? Okay, sometimes we have to step out to make this a success. We got to step out of the way and plug in where we need to be. So I don't say that to scare you, but I want you guys to be really honest. And this is a question that needs to be asked now, early on, rather than 3 years from now, when you're shutting the doors to your organization, okay?
Next question for you, Ryan. When providing affordable housing with a nonprofit, are you limited to one geographic area, state, community to provide that for people?
Nope. No, your market is as big as you want it to be. You can serve one city. You can serve. I mean, so think about it from the most micro level you can think of, where you focus on one building, or one street, or one neighborhood, or one city, or one county, or one state, or one region, or nationwide. There's plenty of nationwide affordable housing developers, senior assisted living facilities that are nationwide. So yeah, you are not limited, and that's that's a really good reason not to limit yourself. One of the things that's come up over the last few weeks with folks that we're working with, don't limit yourself in your mission statement. If you're doing affordable housing, or you're involved in affordable housing in any way, don't limit yourself to a geographic area or one particular type of housing. For example, housing for homeless. Okay. So don't whatever you do, don't limit yourself, because that's your brand. Okay. And so if you put homeless housing in your name, or if you put something very specific in your mission, don't do that. Okay, don't limit yourself to that, because as you evolve and grow, I'll give you a good example. I wanted to put the name New Mexico in the name of my nonprofit. Well, that limits me, and so luckily I changed that, because you just don't want to limit your geographic area or the type of housing that you're providing.
And
the other thing, just real quick, Derek, before we move on off of that, one thing that's very vital when you guys are researching the market that you're going to serve and that you're going to work in, you want to make sure and understand the market that you're in. Okay, if any of you guys that have been working with me for any amount of time know that I base the business, the nonprofit business, on 4 pillars, and the second pillar is, who are you going to serve? Okay, the people that you're going to serve. You need to know who that is. You need to know specifically what the need is. Okay, it does your community no good if you're not fulfilling a need. Okay, so even bigger than the market. Okay, you need to know the need that's in the market that you're in. Okay, so if you're serving a market of, a city, okay, you need to go to the city or the county website, and you need to look up their consolidated plan. That's a 5-year plan where they get to pick their priorities. Okay, start reading notes. Start pulling up old newspaper. Search for keywords in your local newspaper to see what initiatives are starting or what the needs are. What's the community crying out for? Okay, so make sure you understand the market that you're going to work in, and understand where the gaps are. So yeah, you're not limited, but you do need to understand the market that you're going to work in.
great point here, and a couple questions here to feed. One is from Doria about these being recorded. Yes, these are recorded, Doria, and if you are have access to the website, Customer Hub, these are posted in the archives, and these Purpose Fridays are also posted on our YouTube channel. And our mentoring student, Tom Paris, asks, hi, Tom. Do we have a template for the organization that we can use for salaries, medical benefits, commissions, etc.?
Yep.
Yeah, we do. We have that along with a sample organizational budget.
Yep. Yeah, we got a sample budget, but guys, one of the things that our template is awesome, but it's generic. It's really broad, because we deal with folks that across the entire spectrum of service providers. Okay, so that's everything from equine therapy and horse rescue to housing for people getting out of jail. And so what I recommend, and this is exactly what I did, okay, is contact 5 organizations, okay, and I don't just mean research their website. I mean contact them, call them. If they're within 8 hours, drive to their site and visit their site, meet with them, ask them questions. And one of the things that's most valuable is a copy of their budget. Okay, these guys will give you a copy of their budget, and there's nothing more valuable that they can give you, because then you see what what do they pay their construction supervisor. Okay, what do they pay their intake coordinator? Okay, not only what do they pay them, but what's their job description? Okay, so again, to get a very and remember that we don't want to guess, we don't want a pie in the sky number. We want to know, we want a micro level. Remember, if you have a 6-month window, you don't have time to go back a second time, when you apply for funding. So you want to be direct. Remember, you don't want any red flags and you don't want any questions to come up when you put this stuff out to funders. So be as exact as you can be, and don't try to reinvent the wheel. Okay, you're gonna make a custom program, but get as much insight and input from people that have already done it, people that have been successful, and people that have learned things the hard way. Right? But the people that are successful are people that grinded it out and people that have made it, okay? And figure out what made them successful. But start with understanding their budgets. The other thing about looking at their budgets, guys, is not only do you get to see, roughly what they pay people, because you want to be in the ballpark, right? You don't want to put on a mock budget, right, that you're going to pay your construction supervisor $20,000 a year, when the going rate for a construction supervisor is 3 times that. Okay, that'll blow your whole thing up. And anybody that's knowledgeable in that field, that'll be a humongous red flag. Okay, so do your homework, do your research, and nothing can compare to calling these folks and setting up a time. And it's really simple. They love it. This is a whole different world than a for-profit world, guys. Okay, pick up the phone and say, hey, this is Tom, and I've got a housing program here in Texas, and guess what? I'm just starting. I was wondering if I could pick your brain. It looks like you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Can we set some time aside where I can just pick your brain for a minute? Absolutely. Thursday at 3 o'clock, I'll call you. Boom, done. Click. So it's really not difficult, and you guys will start to see they'll start pouring resources to you, people to connect with, other funding sources that you haven't thought about. So I really advise, and thank you, Tom, for this question, because there's a lot of people, on this call today, that needed to hear that. So thank you.
Yeah, great question, Tom. Thanks for joining us today as well. Next question from Karina for you, Ryan, is how did Ryan start soliciting funding from the government and other investors? And then real quick,
Sure.
Ryan, before you answer that, we're going to take just a few more because we have a meeting come up. We'll wrap up our Purpose Friday happy hour. But yeah, Ryan, how did you just start soliciting funding from both state and other investors?
Sure. I did a really that's kind of a big question. Okay, but the first thing that I did, and again, anybody that's worked with me, they know that in order to get funding, you have to understand clearly where you're going and how you're going to get there. Okay, and I built my business on those 4 pillars: understanding my programs, understanding that I had a pipeline of pre-qualified families ready to go. I had a list of resources, and I had all of my sites. I had options on all of my sites. Okay, so to answer your question, it's bigger than just going out and asking questions, right? It's having a crystal clear vision of where you're going and how you're going to get there. And remember, guys, it's simple. Okay, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. But you need to be able to, and that's why the folks that I work with, I give them 4 simple pillars. And there's been people that I work with that take that one document and hand it to a funder, and they're like, oh my gosh. So, but how I approached it was I looked for the gaps. I identified where the gaps were in service, okay, and where the funding was that was tied around those gaps. I saw that USDA Rural Development had the best funding option available for what I wanted to do. They have a program called Section 523 Mutual Self-Help Housing. And so I sat in their office every day for 6 months learning the grant, building a relationship with the people. And believe it or not, one of my biggest champions was from a relationship I fostered inside the USDA office. And so that's how I started. And again, we'll say it over and over and over, and you guys may even get sick of hearing it, but it's the truth, is connecting and building relationships is the #1 way to get funded. Okay, you guys can sit behind a desk or sit in your home behind a computer all you want, and you're not going to get funded. You may get lucky, okay, but you got to get out. You got to take action, take massive action, and be bold. Don't be afraid to show up at someone's office and just talk to them. Don't be afraid if someone's going to tell you no or get lost. It happens. Get over it. Okay, so that's how I started approaching it. And then the more I connected with people, the more I talked to other people, just like we talked about with Tom's question, the more I talked to other organizations, they showed me the types of funding that I needed to be thinking about. Okay, and so my resource list, my funding list grew and grew and grew, and then I put it all together into a funding stack. And I had 6 or 7 different funding sources before it was all said and done. I was kind of sorry, Karina. I was kind of all over the place on that answer, but I can't answer that question without giving you guys the basis behind it. It just applying for funding is one thing, but you got to have a solid foundation. You got to have a crystal clear vision of where you're going as an organization and how you're going to get there. And it doesn't matter if you're applying for $500 or $5 million. They want to know how their funding fits in with the rest of your funding and how it fits into your overall business. Okay, and so if you're just applying for $200,000, but they know it's going to take $1 million to run your business, well, then you better be able to explain how you're going to get that other $800,000.
Okay, let's look at 2 more questions here, both from our good friend Mark Goodson. Hi, Mark. Glad to have you on.
Hi, Mark.
So
I'll try to.
Mark, looking at a nonprofit, has a mission statement. It's called Battlefield to Boardroom. It's to improve the quality of life and economic opportunity for veterans, those who have served our country and the community, by empowering them with entrepreneurship training, support services, and other faith-based values that enhance body, spirit, and mind. Mark asked about if you should use his mission statement in the corporate filing. You can only if it asks for. Some states with they have, like California, for example, like a purpose statement they require.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Yeah. And here's a follow-up talking about filing the 1023-EZ until 3 or 4 months after you file your nonprofit.
We've had people that did it right the day they got their articles back. They filed it. There's somebody that we're working with right now that literally from the time from the time she filed her articles to the time she had her tax exempt status was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what his question on the bottom is about. Can I file the 1023 EZ, which for
Yeah.
everyone, that is the new version that's much
Yep.
more accelerated.
You got to have real quick. We'll rapid fire this one and go on to the next. Okay, Derek. You got to have your articles of incorporation back, and you've got to immediately apply for an EIN number. Once you do that, you boom, file the 1023 EZ if you qualify for that. Okay, next question.
Yeah, that's perfect, Ryan, because that was the last part of Mark's question was filing the 1023 EZ within a couple weeks of obtaining my EIN. But no, as soon as you get that, you can fire that off. And we're seeing people getting their tax exemption back within 3 to 4 weeks with the 1023 EZ. So excellent that you've been on that. But don't wait if you're getting incorporated. As soon as you apply for your EIN number, you get that. Start putting together that 1023 EZ and get that submitted. We're having students in our mentoring program get their exempt status back, like I said, in about 3 to 4 weeks. Well, I believe that's all of the time for the questions we have for Purpose Friday Happy Hour here.
Are there any more questions, Derek?
I believe we got through them all. Karina had, just one thing, Karina, real quick. Did you also get private funding?
Is she asking me that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. We got private donations. I didn't have any private investors, but we got land donated, we got houses donated, we got cash donations. We got a lot of material donations, and some of those were private, some of those were not.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone again. Thanks for bearing with us today. We'll be back on our normal time.
Thanks, guys.
Next Friday at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. We have a great connecting meeting here in Orange County here in about an hour. So we want to thank you for joining us. Mentoring students, looking forward to, again, having working with Ryan. You work with him on a one-on-one basis. Those of you that are on with our Inner Circle Mastermind for CGRE, we're super glad to have you. Very excited about that. NPU students will be back on again to wrap up our Course 140 next Thursday. And once again, everyone that's has access to the site through Purpose Center Profits, NPU, and the mentoring program, these videos will all be in the archive for you to go back and review those. And if you do happen to miss some, you can always go back there to watch it. Well, Ryan,
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Information today. Ryan, again, Director of Mentoring, and at a very powerful nonprofit in the realm of housing, affordable housing. So, well, have a great Friday, everyone, and have a great weekend. We'll see you on next week on all of our calls and webinars. Ryan, we'll look forward to seeing you again next week when we get back into Mexico.
That sounds good, brother. Take care. Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.